In the process of building an application for a real estate agency, we've created a KB in Genexus with the transactions necessary, and based on that, we created the web application and the smart device application to be used by the real estate agents in their mobile work. So far, we've executed the smart device application in Android, which is the default platform. We simply need to install the requirements necessary to be able to execute the application on this platform and let Genexus do the rest. Let's then see how that happens. When the Work with Smart Devices pattern is applied to a transaction, the generator for smart devices is added automatically as an ancillary generator in our environment. At the same time, the Generate Android property is configured with the value true, which, as we've mentioned, is the default platform. The only thing we must do is inform Genexus, through the properties of the smart device generator, where the requirements have been installed. The property main platform is also configured with value Android, indicating the platform on which the smart device application will be executed. In this case, as we saw, upon execution, Genexus opens an Android emulator to test the application where there is no other device to do it. In the case of a device with Android connected to the development computer, Genexus generates the application and installs it on the device if a startup object was indicated. Otherwise, it'll open the KBN. We also saw how to create the QR code of compiled package with APK Extension that contains all the application's logic and how to install it on a device. But in order to install applications on devices, the applications must be signed. In the case of Android, the APK generated is always signed, so nothing else is needed to install the application on this device. Likewise, and with simple steps, we can have Genexus generate the same application, but for devices with BlackBerry and iOS operating systems. Let's see how to do it for BlackBerry. Once the necessary requirements have been installed, all we need to do is configure the Generate BlackBerry property with value true, and configure the properties specific for the platform. And lastly, we configure the main platform property with the value BlackBerry. We are then ready to execute for the new platform, so we press F5. If we do not have a device connected to the computer, then Genexus will open the application in the BlackBerry emulator. As we can see, just like in Android, when an application for BlackBerry is executed with no device connected, the execution takes place in the emulator. In cases where a device is connected, the JAD compiled package is generated, and it's installed and executed directly on the device. In this case, the application is not signed, but the process for requesting a signature is simple and free. Now let's see the steps necessary for executing our application on a device with iOS operating system. As in the previous cases, we must configure the Generate iOS property with value true, and the main platform property with value iOS. In this case, we also have different options to execute the application, so it'll be necessary to indicate the type of execution by configuring the execution type property within the group of iOS specific properties. One of the options is iPhone Simulator, or Mac. When we use this option, we must configure the name of the Mac, where the application will be sent and emulated, along with the credentials for connection, that is, the username and password. We must then install on the Mac the components necessary for executing this type of application. In this option, when we press F5, apart from generating the application, we are sending it to the Mac, which must be connected to the same network as the development computer, and is executed on the emulator within the Mac. Here there will be no application signature, since the signature does have a cost. Another option allows, in the case of having a device connected to the Mac, the signature installed on the Mac and the device being authorized, the compilation of the package with an APK extension for installing it on the device in order to execute the application. There are also options for compiling the APK package and compiling it again to the development computer so it may be installed on the device using iTunes. Even in cases where a Mac is not available, it is possible to execute the application anyway by using the KBN, Knowledge Base Navigator, that we've seen in other videos. Once the application is installed on the device, we can see the different options available for executing it. That is, how to access REST services from the application installed on the device. One possibility is to have REST services installed on a computer within a private network with Wi-Fi access, or on a server available through the Internet. This will allow the smart device application installed on the device to connect to that private network, or to the web via Wi-Fi, in order to access the REST services. The following option consists of configuring a computer-to-computer network. This network will enable a Wi-Fi connection directly between two computers, or between one computer and a device with a Wi-Fi connection, in which case the computer used for developing will function as a server. And lastly, we have a new option in Genexus for executing applications by installing them in the cloud with just one click. This can be done in a simple way when we configure the deploy to cloud property with value yes, and the web and smart device applications generated are both installed in the cloud, in addition to installing the smart device application on the device. The default server used is apps2genexusx.com in the Amazon cloud, made available especially to prototype Genexus applications. When generating the application, GX technical credentials will be requested for installing it in the cloud. Once the application is installed, it will be available to access from the device, consuming the REST services directly from the application in the cloud.